Thank you all for joining. And I'll share a chapter. We'll read a little bit from Srila Prabhupada and then I'll go through all the details of different pastimes. So I'll just share my screen and we'll just start reading. Let me just close the window. It's making noise. Okay. So the chapter we'll be doing today is the Draupadi meets the Queen of Krishna. It's a very interesting chapter. We'll go through the details. So let me just read a little bit from Prabhupada. I'll just read one or two paragraphs just so that we get started with Prabhupada. Okay, chapter. Well, this is volume 2, chapter 28. I think in a single one is chapters 80 something, 83, I think. Okay, Draupadi meets the queens of Krishna. I'm going to read from this. And I'm sharing. Let me see. Let me share also. Okay, here I'm sharing also. Okay, so you can see what I'm sharing. There were many visitors who came to see Krishna, and among them were the Pandavas headed by King Yudhishthir. After talking with the gopis and bestowing upon them the greatest benediction, Lord Krishna came to welcome King Yudhishthir and other relatives who had come to see him. He first of all inquired from them whether their situation was auspicious. Actually, there is no question of ill fortune for anyone who sees the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Yet when Lord Krishna, as a matter of etiquette, inquired from King Yudhishthir about his welfare, the king became very happy by such a reception and began to address the Lord thus: My dear Lord Krishna, great personalities. So this is Yudhishthir speaking. My dear Lord Krishna, great personalities and devotees in full Krishna consciousness always think of your lotus feet and remain fully satisfied by drinking the nectar of transcendental bliss. The nectar which they constantly drink sometimes comes out of their mouth and is sprinkled on others as the narration of your transcendental activities. This nectar coming from the mouth of a devotee is so powerful that if one is fortunate enough to have the opportunity to drink it, he immediately becomes freed from the continuous journey of birth and death. Our material existence is caused by our forgetfulness of your personality, but fortunately the darkness of forgetfulness is immediately dissipated if one is privileged to hear about your glories. Therefore, my dear Lord, where is the possibility of ill fortune for one who is constantly engaged in hearing your glorious activities? Okay, we'll take a pause here. I'll recite the Mangalacharan now. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande Sri Guru Dinataranam Paramanandamadvam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So welcome again all of the devotees who are joining today. So now we'll be reading a few chapters from Krishna book. I'll explain. In our Krishna book, Prabhupada gave, like I was saying the other day, basically each chapter from Bhagavatam is a chapter of Krishna book. And Prabhupada gave it early on so that in case he doesn't stay long enough in this planet to complete whole Bhagavatam, at least devotees have this Krishna book. Actually, which is true, that actually happened. Because Prabhupada finished about 32 or 33 chapters of the Bhagavatam of 10th canto, and after that he left. But in Krishna book, we have the commentary of Prabhupada for all the chapters of Bhagavatam. So what he was thinking early actually was true. It happened actually that he did not stay long enough to write commentary on all the chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. So what we have in Krishna book is Prabhupada's his own realizations and his explanations of all the activities of Krishna described in Srimad Bhagavatam. So this particular situation, let me just close the door 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Okay, Hare Krishna. So here we're reading from this book. So this particular section of Bhagavatam or Krishna book is the time when actually there was a solar eclipse and devotees from all over the, particularly North India, not North India, but particularly all of India, they came to Kurukshetra for the yajna. So there were devotees who came from Dwarka, Krishna, Balaram, and all the Yadus, they came. Then the Kauravas, they came from Hastinapur and also from Indraprastha, where Maharaj Yudhishthir was staying. And also devotees from Vrindavan came. So here in this situation, Krishna met the devotees of Vrindavan almost after 100 years or so. Very long time. He met them after a very long time. The gopis were there. And the gopis actually, they wanted to take him back to Vrindavan because they were saying, "You're same Krishna, we're the same gopis, but you have come here as a king and we don't like it. We want our same Sham Sundar, the way you were in Vrindavan." So all these, interactions happened, and they're actually very heartbreaking to see how much they were in love with Krishna, but somehow they could not take him back to Krishna. They wanted to take him back to Krishna, but Krishna had to go back to Dwarka. So that happened, and now Krishna has come to meet the Pandavas. Okay, so now this is like part 2 of the whole meeting. First meeting was with the residents of Vrindavan, and now this is the meeting with the Pandavas. So the way it's going is that the men are meeting the men and the women are meeting the men. First everybody meets everybody because they are seeing each other after a long time. And finally the men are with men and the women are with women. So the area we will read today is where Draupadi is meeting the queens of Krishna. So this particular chapter, there are 16,108 queens of Krishna, right? So the first 8 or 10 principal queens, their story is described because Draupadi asked them, "Tell us how you got married to Krishna," because Krishna was the subject of interest for everybody from all angles. And Draupadi was like a sister to Krishna. Her name is also Krishna actually. So she was very close to Krishna. We know that when she was being tried to disrobed, then it was Krishna who supplied her the sari. We know that. So Draupadi was very curious to know how these queens married Krishna. So she's taken them in a room. They're all sitting together. And all the queens are there. Remember, Krishna came there with all his queens. That means he is traveling with close to 20 to 25,000 people, or maybe more. Maybe a lot more. We don't know the exact number. Well, actually, it could be a lot more because these queens are there, their children are there, which Krishna had 10 sons with each wife and daughters too. And there were many Yadus. So it could be they are traveling in not just thousands, but maybe lakhs or millions. It's possible. I just don't know the exact number. But for sure, all the 16,000 queens were there. So 16,000 queens, which is a lot, they're all sitting in a big room or a tent. And then Draupadi is asking them one by one, how did you marry? So this chapter describes those details. So I'll go through one by one all the queens and their story in brief. And finally, the last thing was the Rohini, which was the one of the queens of those 16,100 queens he married after they were released from the captivity of Bhaumasura. So that's the last one. But first, we'll start with Mother Rukmini. One second. Everything is clear so far?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, we are seeing the screen which you shared before Mangalacharan.
Sure. And I was not going to share anything. I was just going to describe this. Should I just take it off because we're not reading anymore?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Okay.
If it is okay for you.
Yeah, it's okay for me. Perfectly okay. Yeah, just have yes, Mataji, we can do it definitely. Okay. So we will read through this Rukmini. Okay. So the Rukmini's story, we all know how she got married to Krishna because she was supposed to be married to Shishupal. And her brother Rukmi was very adamant that she should actually marry Shishupal, but her father was not sure. So this whole arrangement was going on, and finally she sent a Brahmana. She was about to be married, and in urgency she sent a Brahmana all the way to Dwarka. Remember, she was on the other side of the country, Mithila. And then she sent a Brahmana all the way to Dwarka to give a message. In the message, Rukmini describes that how she was attracted to him. She had heard about him, I believe, from Narad Muni. She had never met him, never seen him, but she was so attracted just by listening about him that she had decided in her own mind that she was going to marry Krishna and nobody else. So when the Brahmana delivered that message, then Krishna assured the Brahmana that I will be there. But Brahmana cannot go back so quickly because it took him few days to reach. But Krishna got on the chariot the same day, the same night. He got on the chariot, he took the Brahmana with him, and they drove across the country on the chariot within the same night. Next morning, when they reached Mithila, the place where Rukmini was, the Brahmana went and greeted Rukmini. As soon as she saw the Brahmana, she was so relieved that she knew Krishna is here. Krishna has not come in front yet. Krishna is nowhere in the scene. Krishna is not invited either. But she saw the Brahmana and she was relieved that Krishna will do something to take me out of this place. And actually, that was the day of her Swayamvar, her marriage. All the kings are there. It's about to be started. And she went out of the town or out of her palace for this Agra Puja, where you do the puja before the actual event. When she was doing that, that's when Krishna came on a chariot and then he basically kidnapped her and took her away. So she was describing these details to Draupadi that this is how I was kidnapped. Then the kings, they tried to fight her, fight him. But Krishna was so strong that somehow they could not win over him, and then Krishna took me away. So that is the story of Rukmini. Then came Satyabhama. So we all know the pastime of Shamantakamani. The Shamantakamani was something which was given to Satrajit by sun god. It was given to him. That money was so bright that when people saw Satrajit going around with the money, they thought Suryadev himself has come. Extremely bright. And that money has the benediction that whoever holds that money, he is going to produce a large amount of gold every single day. So that money was there with Satrajit. And actually, just to go into a little more details, Akrura at some point told him that why don't you give it to Krishna or Ugrasen? Because first thing, it will be safe, and second thing, this is the best thing you have, it should be offered to the king. And the third thing, Krishna is the Supreme Lord himself, so why are you keeping it? So Satrajit, he was actually quiet, he didn't say much. But Akrura understood that he does not have the desire to give. So he kept the money with himself. He was worshipping the money every day that was producing the gold, all that was going on. And Krishna did not object to it. So one day, the Satrajit brother Prasena, he went in the forest and he took the money with him around his neck, because that's how they used to do. Even Satrajit, when he traveled, he would keep the money around his neck because that's the safest place they could keep, and also it makes them very bright. So he was very bright when he was traveling with it, and so was Prasena, who was his brother, younger brother. So Prasena, one time he was carrying money with him and he decided to go to forest. So he went to the forest, and then he was in a situation where he was attacked by a lion, and actually lion killed him. Lion killed Prasena, but lion has no use for the money. So what happened, this Jambavan, he and his team, his army, they were there. They found that money was on the forest, on this dead body. They left the dead body there, but they took the money and gave it to Jambavan. Jambavan had that money and he gave it to his daughter to play with it. So now when that happened, then money is now in a cave with Jambavati, and she's playing with it as a toy because Jambavan has no value for it, because he is in a monkey farm, and in that farm he has no value for that money. He doesn't know how to worship it, he doesn't have anything to do with gold. So for him it's just a bright toy, so he gave it to his daughter. Meanwhile, in Dwarka, the situation is such that Krishna is getting the blame because Krishna said that you should give it to this. Krishna said that you should give it to Ugrasen. So Krishna started getting the blame about that he has stolen the money, because the money disappeared. Prasena has also disappeared. So now Krishna has to deal with that blame. So Krishna decided that okay, let me go and find out, because he was told that Prasena actually took it and he never came back. So the blame was coming on Krishna that you must have done something. Prasena is gone and so is the money. So you must have done something to get that money. So Krishna said, okay, I will go and check. So he went to the forest and he found the dead body of Prasena. From there he followed the footsteps of whoever took the money, and that led him to the cave. And there were all the Yadus with him, whoever went with him. There was like a team of people, Yadus, they went with him, and Krishna also went. So Krishna said, okay, let me go inside and then you wait. And then Krishna went inside and he did not come out for 28 days. Long time he did not come out. The reason he did not come out is because as soon as he got in the cave, then there was a fight between Jambavan and Krishna. When that happened, they fought for many days. Finally, Jambavan was so confused that how can someone defeat me when nobody ever can other than my own Lord? So he concluded that he is my own Lord, and Krishna revealed to him that actually he is not different from Lord Ramchandra. When that happened, then Jambavan felt very bad that how can I fight my own Lord for so long? So just to make up for that mistake, which he thought was a mistake, but actually he was trying to defend himself, what he did was he offered his daughter Jambavati to him, and he offered the Shamantak money also. So this is how this Jambavati got married to him, and there's another wife called Satyabhama, who was actually the who became wife later. So what happened? Jambavati got married, she came back, and Krishna brought back this Samantak money, and she gave it to Satrajit. So now Satrajit felt bad again, just like Jambavan, that how could I blame Krishna when actually Krishna never stole it? He actually brought it back to me. Then Krishna told him the whole details of what happened in the forest, that his brother went for hunting, he got killed, and the army of these Jambavan, they took the money and they put it in the cave, and somehow he got the money back from there. So now Satrajit, because he was feeling bad, to compensate for that, he offered his own daughter Satyabhama in marriage to Krishna and gave a lot of dowry. So both Jambavati and Satyabhama became the wife of Krishna from the same pastime, which is the Samantak money. This money actually caused the marriage of two of the queens of Krishna. Is it clear so far, or is it a lot of detail and we are getting confused? Can someone just, because sometimes we get confused with all the details.
It's all
Clear, Prabhuji. It's clear.
It's
clear,
clear, right?
but these are all covered, Prabhuji, in earlier chapters.
Oh, okay. Because
Marriage of 16,000 till all the wives, every detail was covered at that time.
so should I skip through this?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Oh, because in this chapter all these are coming. This was I picked the right chapter, correct?
Yeah, if you see the chapters,
Ah,
56, 57, 58, 59, 60, these are all up to the talks between Krishna and Rukmini. They were all there. Detailed pastimes are
okay.
there.
Okay, so they are being covered one more time.
Yes, yes. Maybe here they are all explaining to Draupadi, Mother Draupadi again about the
Okay.
experiences. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'll skip through this.
Yeah, so that we can hear the remaining chapters from you. We can
Sure,
take.
Mataji. Sure, I'll skip. Okay, so then I think I explained three queens. I think I'm going to skip the rest because there were five more queens and that would take a lot of time. So then these all queens are explained how they are explaining to Draupadi, and then finally Roni explained about this whole Bhaumasura pastime. So those are the details. Okay, so next thing what happened was, after all the talking is done, then what happened, I was saying earlier, is that all the sages are coming to Kurukshetra. All the Kauravas, Pandavas, and Brajavasis are coming. So when all the sages came to Kurukshetra, then when people are meeting sages, then the environment is different. So far, when families were meeting each other, it's a very social environment. Everybody's greeting each other, checking on each other. That's good. But when they're meeting the sages, then it's a more formal and a more spiritually oriented. Krishna is always spiritual, but it's more about how to live life, that kind of situation. So when all these sages are there, then there's interaction between Krishna on behalf of the Yadus, and there is the sages speaking. So I'll cover some of that. So before we start, I'll just give the list of all the sages who actually arrived for that solar eclipse. So here it says Vyasdev was there, Narad Muni was there, Chavana, Devala, Asita, Vishwamitra himself was there, Satananda, Bharadwaj, Gautam, Parshuram, then Vashishta, Galava, Bhrugumuni, Pulastya, Kashyapa, Atri, Markandeya, Brihaspati, Dvaita, Trita, Ekata, the four Kumaras, Angira, Agastya, Yajnavalkya, and Vamadeva. So practically the whole Samaj, the whole society of sages, they all came there in the Kurukshetra for the Yajna. So now, as soon as the sages arrived, they all offered their respects to them, all the Pandavas and all the Kauravas. And finally, when all the formalities were done, then Krishna spoke on behalf of all the Kauravas and Pandavas. Then Krishna is talking about the spiritual life, that how Here I'll just read a little bit. Today we have achieved the desired goal of life because we are now seeing face to face all the liberated sages. So Prabhupada is explaining in this purport that when people take on the spiritual life, they are more interested in deities or more interested in festivals, but not so much interested in saintly persons. And Krishna is highlighting that point here. Many times you will see in a temple people come, they offer their pranam to the deities, they put something in the hondi, they put eat prasadam and they go away, but they are not interested to know who are the people who are living the life of a temple. Right? They are not interested to know who lives in the temple, how do they live, what is their routine, what do they do. They are not interested in that. So here Prabhupada describes that those are the qualification or the symptoms of someone who's a neophyte, that they are interested in devotees. And Krishna is saying these to make it a point that we do all these ceremonies, all this sacrifice, but unless we offer our respect to the sages and unless we understand the message they have to offer, then our practice of whatever we are doing is actually not very useful or not very fruitful. The number one, like Prabhupada says so many places, if we are going to the holy places, we should go to meet the people who are living there, the saintly people, and not so much to take the bath or see the deities and come back. So Krishna was highlighting that point, that this is what should be done. Then Krishna also spoke about how this body is made of, the Tridhatu, the different elements is made of, and we think that this body are our own self. But actually we have to come to the understanding that we are the spirit soul, and that knowledge actually is imparted by the sages. So Krishna was presenting the whole philosophy in a nice manner, and everybody was hearing that we must take shelter of all the saintly people who come our way. So when all these sages are there, all these saintly people are there, Krishna was highlighting the importance of how we should take shelter of them. When he said that, the sages were kind of confused and bewildered because they know he is the Supreme Lord and he is speaking like that. So they were actually, first of all, very impressed and also at the same time not surprised that Krishna spoke so succinctly, so clearly, the goal or the purpose of human life in front of everybody. So they were very happy to hear that. So then then the sages themselves started describing the position of Krishna. That actually in the association of Krishna, there is no question of any inauspiciousness or anything bad. That he is the goal of life and we should always surrender to him. So they were giving back the same message, that yes, you are asking us these questions, but our answer to you is that the person you are looking for is right within you. So they started glorifying Krishna. So then there was this mutual interaction between the sages and the Krishna and the Yadavas. And now finally they are getting ready to do the sacrifices. But before the sacrifices, all these arrangements were made and they're nicely laid out. And then all the Kauravas and Pandavas, they all took bath, came in the proper dresses, and they set for the yajna. And different kinds of yajnas were performed. Here I think I have the few names which are highlighted of the yajnas that were done. Jyotisoma, Darsha, Paurnamasa, Suryastra, Vaikrata, Agnihotra. So all these yajnas were performed in the presence of all the yadus and all the gurus. So finally, when the yajnas were done, everybody was satisfied, and all the people who helped with the yajnas, they were actually given proper gifts appropriate to their position. Because remember, when they came, everybody came to Kurukshetra, they came on a solar eclipse, and the primary purpose of going there was to do the yajnas. So when all the sages came, they properly engaged everybody in doing the yajna, and after yajna, the gifts are given. Whatever is left over from the yajna is given to all the people who helped with the yajna. So all that happened, that Krishna gave gifts, and then the poor Kauravas gave gifts, Pandavas, Yadus, they all gave gifts to the Brahmanas. And finally, when the sages were leaving, then Vasudev, father of Krishna, he approached all the sages and asked them question that what am I supposed to do, that I'm stuck in the material world with so many things around me? How am I supposed to live the life? Give me some advice. Just like, people who are coming to spiritual life, they ask for advice, how should I live my life? So Vasudev, who's father of Krishna, he's asking that question, how should I live my life? And started laughing. Yeah, the sages, they started thinking, laughing in the sense that they were a little amazed to see that Vasudev, who's father of Krishna, he's asking that question. So they said that we are actually in some ways not surprised, because Vasudev was so humble that it's not a surprising thing that even though Krishna is living with him, he's asking us these questions. And they explained to him that how, because he is living with Krishna, there's nothing which is lacking in his life. He has everything he needs. He just needs to continue just serving Krishna. But also, they gave him instructions on the householder. Here I'm going to read a few things. I had a bookmark here. Okay, I think I lost the bookmarks, but basically they were telling him that how actually they were giving him the general instructions for the householder, that one should perform the austerities, one should perform the sacrifices, live a pure life, just the general instructions they were giving him. But they told him, because Krishna is with you, there is nothing you need to worry about. So when that happened, then finally Vasudeva was pacified, and then after that the sages actually left, and that ends this chapter. Then the next chapter is spiritual instructions for Vasudeva and return of 6 dead sons of Devaki by Lord Krishna. Okay, so in this particular situation, what is happening is Vasudeva is asking Krishna and Balaram. So he's talking to Krishna and Balaram and telling them that actually when you were in the school of Sandipani Muni in your childhood days, you brought back the dead son of Sandipani Muni. Because that time they wanted to offer Guru Dakshina, and Sandipani Muni, they asked, what do you want? Sandipani Muni said that I don't really want anything, but if you want to bring, my son died, if you can bring back my son. So at that time Krishna went brought back the son of Sandipani Muni. So Vasudeva and Devaki, they knew that he is able to bring the dead people back. So they requested Krishna, then can you please bring our son back? So Krishna and Balaram, for what they are, they actually knew where those sons of Vasudeva and Devaki were. But remember, before Krishna and Balaram were born, Kamsa killed 6 sons of Vasudeva and Devaki. So actually those sons had long ago gone, but they were living in the Sutala planet. So Krishna and Balaram immediately went to Sutala and they met Bali Maharaj there. Bali Maharaj, as soon as he saw them, he was so happy to see them. He welcomed them, greeted them, offered them a seat, offered prayers. he welcomed Krishna very nicely because he knows he's the Supreme Lord. So then Krishna and Balaram asked that where are those 6 boys who were actually killed? So then Bali Maharaj said that they are here and then you can take them back. So actually these 6 sons, they were in their previous life, they were sons of Hiranyakashipu, and they were actually cursed to be killed there by own relative. So that's how when they were born, they were actually killed by Kamsa. So these 6 sons was finally brought back to Mother Devaki, and she was very happy to see them. As soon as she saw them, the milk started pouring from her breast, and she saw them when they were little babies, and now after a long time she saw them, so she was actually very satisfied that Krishna was able to fulfill her desire. So that's the summary of this chapter. Now we'll go to so we covered this. They went to Bali Maharaj welcomed them. In the prayers for Bali Maharaj, oh, I see. Okay, here's what happened. Okay, so these 6 sons were actually the demigods. They were devas in their previous life. So what happened is when Brahma got bewildered by his own by Krishna because of the Leela, Brahma Viman Leela, that's when actually they committed offenses by making fun of Lord Brahma. When that happened, then they were cursed that they'll have to go through tribulation. So that's why they were born in the demoniac family, and finally they were delivered. And actually, after meeting Vasudeva and Devaki, they went back to their positions at the Devas. So that's how they were established back to their position. And Krishna and Balram, they stayed back with Vasudeva and Devaki. So that is the summary of this chapter. And now comes this chapter where the last chapter we're going to cover today, which is the kidnapping of Subhadra and also Krishna visiting Mithila, where there's a king called Bahulasva and there's a Brahmana called Srutadev. Okay, so that's the last chapter we'll cover today. So this marriage of Arjuna with Subhadra. So once upon a time, Arjuna was visiting Prabhas Kshetra. And when he was in Prabhas Kshetra, he heard that Balaram was preparing the marriage of Subhadra. And Arjuna was very much interested in marrying Subhadra. So he was trying to figure out how I can make it work the way I want. Basically, he wants to marry Subhadra. And then Krishna was also in favor of him marrying Subhadra. So Arjuna devised a plan that he actually took a role of a sannyasi, a Tridandi sannyasi. He became that and he started traveling. On the pretext of traveling, for 4 months he came and stayed in Dwarka. But because he was in the garb of a sannyasi, he was very much respected, but internally his goal was to somehow get the hand of Subhadra. He was just contemplating non-stop how to make it happen. Prabhupada explains in the purport here that he was so absorbed in trying to figure out how to marry Subhadra that actually he could not think of anything all day. That's all he was thinking. So one day he was invited in the house of Lord Balaram for lunch because Lord Balaram, being the Supreme Lord, is setting the example of how to treat the saintly people. So he invited the sannyasi to his house. So Arjuna went. And actually, because he's a Kshatriya, he has a good diet. He started eating sumptuously, like very much. Like, when you offer a sannyasi, there's only certain amount they consume, but a Kshatriya, they'll eat a lot more. So when Balram saw he's eating a lot, but he was very happy that he's eating, but Arjuna was eating more than a normal sannyasi would eat. and then his eyes were constantly on Subhadra because she was going in and out serving the sannyasi. After that incident, he became even more intense on wanting to marry Subhadra. So then he was devising different ways, and somehow it was not happening. So one day, Subhadra came out of her palace and she is going to temple on a chariot to do the puja. When she was going that, because remember Arjuna is working as a sannyasi, so he doesn't have any weapons or a chariot or any of the things which the Kshatriyas have. So then he immediately jumped on the chariot because he has the skill. He jumped on the chariot, took control of the chariot, and just ran off with Subhadra on the chariot. But then when Balram heard, then he was very angry. Then he heard that this sannyasi has kidnapped my sister. Sannyasi kidnapping the sister, obviously Balram will be angry. But Krishna knew what is the whole story. So Balram was very angry and he said, we must kill this sannyasi right away. Because he cannot do that. He cannot kidnap our sister. So Arjuna, then Krishna explained to him that, see, this is not a sannyasi, it's Arjuna. And she is inclined to him, he is inclined to her. He is very qualified. He is a Kshatriya also. So what's wrong if they want to get married? So when Balram heard the whole situation, whole story, then he agreed, okay, no problem. If they want to get married, they get married. Then he accepted both of them. He properly arranged for their marriage. And then he gave a lot of dowry, a lot of elephants, a lot of gifts, whatever were given in the Kshatriya marriages. On that way, they were married and they were sent off. So that's how Subhadra went with Arjuna. So this pastime is described. At that point, Parikshit Maharaj was saying that you've been describing all these details about Kauravas and Pandavas and Yadus, but now I want to hear more about Krishna. So when Parikshit Maharaj asked for more about Krishna, then Sukadeva Goswami said, okay, let me tell you a different incident now. So now we are switching gears because now he's going to describe something which is not related to Kauravas or Pandavas. It's happening in the same chapter here, but now it's happening because Parikshit Maharaj said, okay, this is very good what you describe. I want to hear more. So when he asked for more, then he described a story or incident of how Krishna went to this place called Mithila, and there were two devotees there. One was a very poor Brahmana and one was a king himself who was extremely rich. So I'll just read a little bit from that. So there was a householder Brahmana in the city of Mithila, the capital of the kingdom of Videha. The Brahmana, whose name was Srutadeva, was a great devotee of the Lord. So here's one person who is actually a great devotee of the Lord, and that's the Brahmana. The second person is the king of Mithila, was a good devotee as a Brahmana. The name of the famous king was Bahulasva. So here we see that Krishna has gone to the city and actually describes in this chapter. So before that, Krishna was already in Dwarka, right? This whole incident is happening in Dwarka. But Krishna knows that these are two great devotees in Mithila, which is far away from Dwarka. But somehow he wants to go see them. So he actually drove his chariot all the way to Mithila just to see these two devotees. And he went there, many sages also came with him. So here he says, Lord Krishna was accompanied by great sages Narada, Vamadeva, Atri, Vyasdeva, Parshuram, Asita, Aruni, Brihaspati, Kanva, Maitreya, Chavana, and others. So all these sages were traveling with him. Finally, when he got to Mithila, then sure enough, everybody came out to greet Lord Krishna, but particularly the Srutadeva and Bahulasva, they were very happy to see the Lord. So as soon as they saw the Lord, they offered their respects, they offered prayers, and both of them invited Lord Krishna to come to their house for lunch right away, as soon as they saw them. And Krishna agreed to both of them, same day, same time. So it describes here in this chapter that actually Krishna divided himself into two. And Prabhupada explains that when Krishna divides himself into two exact replica, that's called Vaibhav Prakash. That means he's just dividing himself into two exact replicas. And that's what used to happen in Dwarka when Krishna would leave every house to go to the assembly. So he would come out from all 16,108 houses, palaces. He'll get on the chariot, but when he reached the Sudharma assembly, he's one single person. So when did he convert from 1 to 16,000 and 16,000 to 1? Nobody could see. But Krishna has the capacity to divide into multiple forms. We see in the case of Lord Brahma also that when Brahma was, bewildered to see all these forms of Krishna, because he stole all the boys from that, in that pastime, he stole all the boys, the friends of Krishna, and all the cows and cows of Krishna. When he stole them, Krishna expanded himself into those forms. So Brahma was also bewildered to see that how I stole everybody and now everybody is back without me releasing the people I stole. So Krishna can expand himself into as many forms as want. So in this situation, Krishna transformed or expanded himself into two forms. One went with Bahulasva and one went with the Brahmana Srutadeva. So when he went to the house of Srutadeva, Srutadeva is a very poor Brahmana. So he gave him a charpai. Charpai is the straw mat and a wooden thing to sit on. And what he offered him was very basic, just rice, dal, one sabji, and they were fanning him. But he was extremely happy to be there, and he was actually treated in a very nice way. So Krishna was very happy. But when he went to the house of Bahulasva, who's the king, and then the treatment was first class. Like that, the standard of treatment was much higher. But because both were equally devoted to Krishna, Krishna did not distinguish between a higher treatment or a lower treatment. From Krishna's perspective, both treatments were equal. So there he was offered a fine seat, and then there were so many servants. The variety was very high, and the arrangements were very royal. So all these things were provided to Krishna. And this king, actually, even though he was a king, he was almost like a Brahmana, because he had no desire to expand his kingdom or harass people unnecessarily. He just wanted to do his duty as a king and just worship Krishna. So when Krishna came to his house, he was extremely happy, and then he was just trying to arrange everything. He was very actually disturbed, just trying to figure out everything. And Prabhupada explains in the purport, his disturbance is not because of his material desires, but his disturbance in the mind is because he wants to serve Krishna. So finally, Krishna was served nicely, and Krishna offered his blessings to him. And then same thing happened with this Shrutadev. And Krishna gave different instructions to both of them. For Brahmana, he said that this is the life you should be living, that you are actually an example for the whole world to follow. So by your example, people can love how to live life. So that's the kind of instruction he gave to Brahmana. And to the king, he said that you are actually my representative, and you are taking such nice care of your subjects. So you are actually pleasing me. I'm very satisfied with what you're doing. So it just gave them different instructions. So this is how we see that how Krishna is interacting with different devotees. At the end of this, the king asks Krishna if he can stay a little longer, because remember, Krishna is the host, not the Brahmana, because that's his kingdom. So Krishna, because of the law of the king, he agreed to stay for a few days. So he stayed. And then for Brahmana, I'll just read a few things of what Brahmana was thinking. So Brahmana is saying, Krishna, I'm fallen into the deep dark well of householder life and the most unfortunate person. How has it become possible that Lord Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his associate, the great sages, whose very presence makes a place as sanctified as a pilgrimage site, have agreed to come to my place? So actually he was very happy and very grateful that Krishna came to his house. He asked for the benediction that he can stay connected with Krishna always. But for the king asked that if Krishna can stay a few days more. So these two different devotees with different means, different situation, they equally satisfy the Supreme Lord, and Krishna benedicted them in the ways appropriate for their situation. So this is all about this chapter. There are a lot of details in the chapters of how they offered the prayers, but I think we can wrap up now. I'll just read a little bit and then we'll wrap up. So Prabhupada is saying in the end, in this way both the Brahmanas, Srutadeva and the king of Mithila, under the direction of the Lord, worshipped both Krishna and his followers, the great sages and saintly Brahmanas, on an equal level of spiritual importance. Both Brahmana and king ultimately achieved the supreme goal of being transferred to the spiritual world. So basically their antagati, their end result, was actually the same, that both went back to Godhead at the end of their life. So with that, we'll take a pause. If there are any questions or comments, then we can discuss at this point. Was it clear, all the details? Because sometimes we get lost in the details and it's just difficult to keep track.
It is very wonderful, Prabhuji. If as there is 5 more minutes, as there are 5 more minutes, is it possible to cover that missing chapter of killing of Shishupala, deliverance of Shishupala? If you can.
Sure. Sure, we can cover that. So, okay, let me recollect. So what happened was, so King Yudhishthir did the Rajasuya sacrifice in Indraprasth. Because remember, I'll just do a recap a little bit from yesterday, that Yudhishthir was in exile, and finally when he came back, he was offered that, no, sorry, this is before the exile. When they were actually, this is after they were when they tried to kill him, then finally the elders of the families, they sat down and settled that we need to separate them because there's too much friction. So they gave him a barren land and a forest to develop their kingdom, and there was nothing. And with the help of a Maya demon and Vishwakarma, they were able to build a very beautiful city, much better than the Hastinapur. And Kauravas were very envious of that city. So when that happened, Yudhishthira Maharaj said, okay, I have everything, I don't need anything, but all I want is to see Krishna. So he said, well, Krishna will not just come just because I want to see him. So he arranged for Rajasuya sacrifice. But the requirements of the Rajasuya sacrifice is that all the kings have to surrender to the king. So then we were talking about how the main obstacle is Jarasandha, and also he sent an invitation to Krishna to come for the Rajasuya sacrifice. And also the king who were imprisoned by Jarasandha also sent a messenger to Krishna saying, please come and save us. So combination of these two prompted Krishna to go to this Indraprastha and then devise a plan to kill Jarasandha. So when Jarasandha was killed and finally all the obstacles were gone, then now the Rajasuya sacrifice is starting. Now when you start the Rajasuya sacrifice, the main question comes is the Agra Puja. Who should be worshipped as the most elevated person in this assembly? This assembly is full of all these big Kshatriyas, big kings and very exalted sages. So all that is there. But now the debate is who should be worshipped. So when this is going on, there are 5 Pandavas, right? Yudhishthir, Bhimsen, Arjun, Nakul and Sahadev. Sahadev is the youngest. And Sahadev got up and decided that of all the people presented here, Krishna is the most exalted and he should be worshipped. Even though he is in the position of a householder, but he is more exalted than all the sages who are present there. Because remember, when this Rajasuya was performed, all the sages were also invited to actually perform the sacrifice. But Krishna being a householder, being not even the king, Ugrasen is the king. Krishna is not the king. He is related to the king, but Krishna was asked to be worshipped. So now Shishupal is actually Krishna's cousin. And it is said about Shishupal that Shishupal was so envious of Krishna from the very birth. When he started speaking, you know how kids, when they're about a year and a half or something, they have broken language. As soon as he started speaking, he started speaking bad about Krishna. The first time he spoke Krishna word, something bad came out of his mouth. He was always envious of Krishna. He was always against Krishna, and that's how he was. He was like that always. So when this Sahadev said that Krishna should be worshipped, then Shishupal got up and said that I have respect for all the saintly people in this society, all the people who are assembled here. I respect them a lot. But I am disturbed by the fact that this young kid, Sahadev, has decided that Krishna should be worshipped. Krishna should not be worshipped. He said he is Ranshore. He left the battlefield. We don't even know what his caste is, whether he is a Kshatriya or whether he is a Vaishya. He has no place of residence. He lives off of the seashore, somewhere we don't even know. And he had relationship with the people in Vrindavan, and now he has queens there. So we don't know. He's basically a lampat. He has no standing in the society whatsoever. So he started speaking many bad things about Krishna. So when this happened, everybody became very angry because everybody was in favor except for Shishupal. So they were about to attack Shishupal. And I think here in this chapter it was not described, but I have read somewhere else that Krishna warned Shishupal. He warned him that if you cross a certain number, I believe it was 100, if you cross more than a certain number of insults to me, then I am going to kill you. I think I've read or heard it somewhere else. So when Shishupal was warned like that, he became even more envious and more angry, and he started abusing more. When he started abusing more, he get out of control. That's when Krishna called his Sudarshan Chakra and sent it to him. When Krishna sent the Sudarshan Chakra to him, his neck, his head was cut from the body, and then in the presence of everybody saw that a bright light came out of Shishupal's body and merged in the body of Krishna. This is something everybody saw. Actually, it goes back to, I think, the third canto of Bhagavatam or somewhere there, third or fourth canto. Yudhishthira Maharaj asked Narad Muni, how is it that Shishupal got that Sayujya Mukti? That how he got liberation when he was so envious of Krishna, when there are so many saints who are performing tapasya for so many lifetimes and still they cannot achieve that goal. This man, being envious of Krishna, he achieved that goal. And there Narad Muni explained to Yudhishthira Maharaj that the intensity with which he was hating Krishna was much more than the intensity with which the sages worship Krishna. And in the end is the intensity which matters. Like Rupa Goswami also explained that our devotion to Krishna depends on how much greed we have to get Krishna. So when he had so much intensity, also our Goswami explained that this is not the favorable way of worshipping Krishna. There should be anukulasya. What is that verse where it says that it should be favorable and
Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya
the
vacha.
varjanam. Yes, that one. So there he explains that we should be doing favorable. But he also explains when the intensity is very strong for Krishna, even though it's negative, it eventually becomes positive. So Shishupal, he merged in the body of Krishna, but eventually he was reinstated in his position as Jay and Vijay, one of those. Because they were cursed for 3 births to come as demons. They were given the option either 3 births as demons or 4 births as devotees. But because they wanted to come back quickly, they chose the option of taking the 3 births. and this was the last birth. The first one was Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, second was Ravan and Kumbhakarna, and the third was Shishupal and Dantavakra. So here Shishupal is killed, he emerges in the body of Krishna, but eventually he is reinstated in his position as one of the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha. So that is the pastime of the killing of Shishupal. Okay, so at this point, if there are any questions or comments, we can discuss those. Anything anybody wants to discuss?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yeah, sorry, that was Anukulena Krishnanuseelanam Bhaktiruttama.
Yes, that one.
Rupa Goswami's sentence. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, additions, reflections?
Prabhu, would you like to say something?
No, Prabhu, your narration is so wonderful. You take us into the Leela. So tomorrow is our last session for Krishna Kathamritam. Then Saturday and Sunday, getting ready for Janmashtami. I hope everybody got some glimpse of Krishna pastimes and get ready to invite Krishna into their hearts and celebrate Janmashtami.
Nice. So you'll be celebrating in the temple?
Yes, Prabhuji. On 16th, we are celebrating in the temple in a smaller scale. And 17th, we are doing public community hall.
Oh, like that. Okay. Okay. Nice. Very good.
Okay, so with that, we will conclude for today's Krishna Kathamritam session. Let's thank His Grace Nanda Kumar Krishna Prabhuji by chanting 3 times Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. So tomorrow morning we'll have Bhagavatam class at 6:30 a.m. So stay tuned. And tomorrow evening we'll have Krishna Kathamritam last and concluded session. Don't miss that one. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Let's chant 3 times Hare Krishna Mahamantra enthusiastically and wind up the class. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Hare Hare,
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Hare Hare. भगवान श्री कृष्ण परमात्मा की जय। अमल पुराणम श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। जन्माष्टमी महामहोत्सव की जय। समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि हरि।